Hello, it's a pleasure coming your way once again. Over the past few days, I've been looking at some kinds of visas issued by the UK uh, along the lines of the factors that account for their rejections. I have looked at the um, visitors visa, I have looked at the students or the study visa. Today, I want us to look at the spousal visa. We say that the study visa, that is the most recent uh, visa kind we looked at, we said that it has an impressive approval rate of between 95 to 98%. What it means is that for every uh, 100 applications that are made, you have between 95 and 98 of them getting approved. And so it tells you that it has a high visa, it has a high approval rate. Now, uh, let's see how the approval rate of spousal visas are. To start with, spousal visas are visas issued to spouses. So somebody you are married to, somebody you are in a civil partnership with, those are your spouses. But note that there's a diametrical opposition between the approval rate of study visa and then spousal visa. What do I mean by having a diametrical opposition? Uh, unlike 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 study visa with a very high approval rate, uh, spousal visas have a relatively low approval rate. In fact, it has an approval rate of 75%. What it means is that for every 100 applications, 100 spousal applications that are made, a whooping 25 of them are rejected. Now you have a spouse living in the UK. Is that alone a sufficient condition for you to apply for a spousal visa? Let's see the conditions under which one can apply for a spousal visa. Now, to apply as a partner, you and your partner both need to be 18. Yes, 18 or over. Yes, you have to be 18 years before. In fact, our legal statutes in Ghana even enjoins us to marry legally at the age of 18. And so I believe this is a fundamental condition most married people would meet. And your partner must also either. So your partner must satisfy one of these conditions before before you can apply for a spousal visa. Your partner living in the UK must satisfy at least one of these conditions before you can apply. So there are instances where people have had to compare themselves with others because um, their partners have been here for too long a time and they have not been able to bring them here under the spousal visa route. It might not be their making. It might be because they do not satisfy any of these conditions. Now, first be a British or an Irish citizen. Yes, if you're a British or an Irish citizen, you could apply for a spousal visa for your spouse to join you. The second one is that you must have settled in the UK. For example, you have indefinite leave to remain, settled status, or proof of permanent residence. Yes. Before you can bring your spouse here, you must have attained what we call a settlement status. A settlement status. Yes. Otherwise known as an indefinite leave to remain. That is why people come here and they are unable to go home. They are unable to come home because once they come home, they might not be able to return. Why? Because they do not have what we call a settlement status or an indefinite leave to remain. Unless you have applied and you have attained this status, a settlement status or an indefinite leave to remain, you cannot bring your partner with you. Uh, the rest do not apply to us. So, the point that is worthy of note is that in order that you can bring your spouse or your partner with you, you must have attained a status known as an indefinite leave to remain status. That is the only condition, and once you are not a British or an Irish or you do not satisfy any of those conditions, the most appropriate condition that can that would allow you to bring your partner is by having a settlement status. That is only one of the conditions. Remember, I told you that not long ago, James Cleverly, the Home Secretary, the Home Secretary announced a number of proposals, a number of policies to cut down the increasing levels of immigration into the UK. And before you can bring your spouse here, you should note that uh, there was a financial requirement, and I'm going to deal with those. I'm going to deal with those. So let's see. So what factors would account for the rejection, provided you have met the condition? Your husband is here or your wife is here. He has met the fundamental condition. What is that fundamental condition? The fundamental condition is that he or she has applied for a settlement status, a status that allow him to permanently settle in the UK. So he has attained that status. He has an indefinite leave to remain. So by dint of that, he is able to apply for you, his or her partner, to join him or her in the UK. But that is only one of the conditions. That is the fundamental condition. There are some other conditions to fulfill before you could bring your spouse here. Now, there are certain factors that could account for the visa rejection of your spouse. You are here. You have settled. By dint of your settlement, you want your wife to join you. You want your husband to join you. Now, he or she has initiated the application process. Now, what factors could account for the rejection of his or her visa? Now, let's see. The first factor that could account for the rejection of his or her visa, in spite of having had your settlement status, in fact, it is even the settlement status that formed the basis for your application. Without a settlement status, you would have no business applying to bring your partner here. So in spite of having gained that settlement status, these conditions could occasion the rejection of your partner's visa. The first one is not being able to prove genuine and subsisting relationship requirements. Yes, genuine and subsisting relationship requirements. The UKVI, or the Home Office, the office responsible for the issuance of visa, is reporting of sham marriages in recent times. What do they mean by sham marriages? They are marriages that are arranged, marriages that are not legal, marriages that are contracted for the purposes of gaining immigration advantages. So this has come to the notice of the UKVI, and they have several ways of proving sham marriages. Good. If you are unable to prove that your marriage is genuine, then it will be considered as a sham marriage. And ways of proving that your marriage is indeed a genuine one includes a marriage certificate or civil partnership certificate, a tenancy agreement, utility bills or council tax bills, a lot of them bank statements. So to prove that your relationship is a legal one and not a sham one that would form the basis for your rejection, you must be able to prove by way of a marriage certificate or a tenancy agreement or a bank statement from a joint bank account or a letter from your doctor or your dentist indicating that you share the same address. So if in order that the UKVI does not consider your marriage a sham in applying for a spousal visa, it is important to include any of those. Um, a bank statement or a marriage certificate, utility bills, and anything indicating that you are legally married. No, that would form the basis as an evidence that you are legally married. Good. So that is the first one, making sure that uh, you prove beyond reasonable doubt that your marriage is indeed a genuine one. Good. The second one is non-disclosure of criminal records. Yes, this cuts across all sects of visa refusals. If you have any criminal record, it is important that you state it. If you don't state it and they find out themselves, uh, it is it is it is rather going to aggravate the issue. So it is important that you state it, and for them to consider it on its own merits. Perhaps you could have a reason for uh, committing such crime, and so it is important. You better disclose it than not disclosing it, and then they later find out. It will spell the doom. So if you have such criminal records to equate to the rejection of your spousal visa. The third one, not passing the English language requirements. Yes, the UK is an English-speaking zone, and so you are expected to have some knowledge of English. Yes, some knowledge of English. How do you test it? I have stated over and over. Testing authorities. We have the Pearsons, we have the TOEFL, we have the IELT, we have SELT, a whole lot of them. And if you are privileged to have completed university, you can go for your proficiency test as an indication that indeed you are able to use the four language skills. Failure to provide it could lead to the rejection of your spousal visa. Good. Another factor that could lead to the rejection of your spousal visa is lack of evidence that you can meet the financial requirement for the UK spouse visa. Yes. If you don't have the, if you are not able to prove that you have the financial wherewithal to be able to live in the UK over the period, uh, of course, expect that your visa would be rejected. I have said that among the policies announced, the policy changes announced by the Home Secretary James Cleverly was that uh, as it stands today, the the minimum requirement for a spousal visa is £18,600. It means that you need to have £18,600 in your accounts to be able to bring your spouse. But the policy uh, changes announcement requires that you have £36,700. So that is well over, uh, a significant amount, a very significant amount. And so, if you are not able to meet that, if you are not able to have that amount, if you are not able to show a proof that you have that amount in your account, then of course your spouse will not be able to join you. Good. And then another factor, another factor is uh, not disclosure of previous marriages. If you were married in the past before meeting your current wife, it is important that you state it. It has to be stated for whichever reason best known to them. Stating it wouldn't affect your chances of getting married. They themselves acknowledge that uh, marriages are bound to collapse, and so it is important that you state if you have any previous marriage, if you have had any previous marriages. And then if you have a complex, another point is that if you have a complex immigration history, it also has the potential to affect your chances of getting approved. complex immigration history. What do I mean? Maybe you have overstayed. You have overstayed your visa in the past. You have been deported in the past. You have broken UK immigration rules. Uh, if your spouse has been engaged in any of these in the past, it has the potential to affect the approval of their visa, their spousal visa. And then finally, if you are bound from entering the UK, yes, of course, if there's a ban on you from entering the UK, then your spousal visa will definitely be um, refused. And so it tells you that spousal visa uh, is one of the visa kinds that has a very, very, very high rejection rate. 1 out of every 4 of such applications are refused. That translates into about 75% approval, 25% rejections. It is therefore very important that we take note of some of these key points in order that we can have a successful application. What I have said is that a spousal visa is a visa granted to your spouse, somebody you are legally married to, or somebody you are in a civil partnership with. Not everyone qualifies to apply for a spousal visa. You might have lived in the UK for decades, but you still might not be qualified to apply for a spousal visa for your partner. The reason is that you may not have had a settlement status or an indefinite leave to remain status. Good. Now, if you have this indefinite leave to remain status, that could form the basis for your application. In fact, it makes you eligible to apply. Now, in the application, you have made the attempt to apply. On what grounds can you be refused a visa? Having met the first condition of having a settlement status, what other conditions can what conditions can lead to the refusal of your spouse's application? I said that if you are not able to prove genuine and subsistent relationship, I talked about the fact that the UKVI reports of sham marriages, marriages that are contracted for the purposes of gaining immigration advantages. And so you should be able to prove that indeed your marriage is genuine. Ways of proving it include include making your marriage certificate available, your utility bills, your bank statements, any evidence of cohabitation could brighten your chances of getting approved. And then, if you are not able to pass if you have any criminal records, yes, if you have any criminal records, it would affect your chances of getting approved. And if you are not able to use the language skills, if your knowledge of English is not sufficient, you could also be rejected. And then you don't have the financial capacity to stay in the UK. As I stated, you need 18,600 currently, but with a new policy proposal, you need about 36,700. And so you brace yourself for that. If you are not able to show by way of a bank statement that you are capable, or you have that amount to spend in the UK, then of course you start your visa. The propensity of the rejection of your visa is high, and then you do not provide, you do not disclose any relationships or marriages you have had in the past. It could also, if they find out, it could also affect you. If you have a complex immigration history, you have overstayed your visa in the UK in the past, you would have been deported, or you would have broken any immigration rules, probably not only in the UK, because you know that these um, these embassies and offices have a way of connecting with each other to find out the profiles of immigrants. And so you may have broken immigration rules, not in the UK, but somewhere else. It still has the potential to affect your spousal visa approval. And then finally, if you are banned from the UK, we say that if you have a ban has been placed on you from entering the UK for whichever reason, uh, your visa, your spousal visa, could be rejected. How? The spousal visa uh, is a difficult one, yes. And so it is important that due diligence is done during the application. If your husband is here and has not been able to bring you here uh, by dint of a spousal visa, you note that he may not have met the fundamental condition necessary for bringing you here, and that is the settlement status. Your husband or your wife could apply for another kind of visa that will be relevant for his situation and your situation as well. I will see you some other time. Have a good day.